Welcome to Watercolor Studio 42, and today I'm going to be doing a picture. I'm still sticking a little bit to the idea of using the grid, you know, those little squares, and I found that when you try to sketch something out, sometimes that grid kind of interferes a little bit with your flexibility as to what you want to put in and move around with. And so it's sort of like a series of trees, barn, trees, silo. There's a little a barn in back of the silo, and then back to trees. So it sort of alternates between trees, barn, and buildings and so forth. Then I may put some mountains, maybe like, you know, the Blue Hills or mountains of Vermont or something like that, maybe in the background. Not as much sky, a little bit of foreground, a little bit of the open field in front. But I found that sometimes if you don't make the squares in your grid, or as many squares small enough, that it's hard to manipulate when you want to do something a little bit fussy with it. And so probably next time I'll get away from the grid. But the grid idea is okay if you're starting out and you're not too confident about maybe your drawing abilities, but that comes along with the practice, you know. What I'm doing here is, there's an artist's name down in the lower right-hand corner, but I can't make it out. Maybe with a magnifying glass I could read it. This is actually from a painting. And when you work from somebody else's painting, they've done a little bit of the work for you, you know, as far as the composition goes, as far as the colors that they've used, if you want to use similar colors. This one happens to be an autumn scene. I like to do pictures that are kind of within the season, you know, like winter scenes during the winter months, etc., and whatnot. This has some autumn colors, you know, your yellow, oranges, and reds, and so forth, and even the browns, you know, the grass and whatever turns a little bit brownish, and whatnot. So lately, our mornings have been kind of telling us that winter's on the way. We just turned into fall now, and I should say that the mornings have been quite a bit cooler, and then it warms up, you know, in the 60s probably during the day. Okay, so I think I'm almost ready to start here. Like I said, I'm working. Now, if I work from a photograph or a picture, I'm using it sort of as a reference. I might use the same number of objects, you know, in the picture like this one, barn, silo. This is supposed to be a farm scene, supposedly, whatever it turns out looking like. I'm not sure. Hopefully it will be a farm scene. And then autumn. So I'm going to call it Autumn on the Farm. Yeah, okay? That's pretty much what it is. Autumn, fall, whatever you want. Whichever one you want to use, fall and autumn. Okay, so I could probably add a little bit more to it as far as going over my pencil. What I do is I sketch everything in pencil first, light, and then I go back over. Lately, I've been going back over it with markers, and I use permanent markers, whatever the color might be, but make sure it's always permanent, because if you don't use a permanent ink marker, what happens is that when you put water into it, you're going to smudge. It's going to blur, okay? So I can paint over some of those you know, ink marks because they're permanent. They're not going to change, whatnot. So now, normally in a picture, if I'm doing an outdoor scene, I usually work from the top to bottom. And I go to the top first, put in the sky. And then while I'm waiting for that upper part to dry a little bit, the sky part, then I drop to the lower area in the foreground, get a lot of that in. Then I probably will do the trees, and the finale is actually finishing up with the barn, or the buildings, if you will. In this case, it's a larger barn, a silo, suppose. I hope it's going to look like a silo. I made the roof a little bit too pointed, I guess. But then there's another shed off in the background, 3 of something. I always deal with the uneven numbers, whether it's buildings or barns or people, whatever. 3, 4 is an even number, but I jump to 5 and, the uneven 7, whatever it might be. Okay, so now, let's see if I can get started here. Now, to do the sky, I start off with probably a larger brush. I don't know if I put the one in there that I wanted to use. I happened to come across a real nice 1-inch flat brush, and I probably put it in with some of my other material. I kind of work with 2 bags, one for TV and the other one for my glasses. So everything works out pretty well. All right, make sure your brush is clean, doesn't have any leftover paint. Just tap it a little bit, paper towels. And so now, what we're going to do today, we'll start off with the wash, and I'm just going to wet this upper part just with the water through here. I don't know if I'm going to put some hills and mountains in the background. I might do that. We'll see what happens. I think sometimes you're restricted a little bit painting into the squares because you're trying to utilize the idea of the squares, but then you come across an area that, you want to do something different, a different shape within that. So sometimes it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to give the squares, the grid sketch background. I'll probably give that a little bit of a rest. I'm going to wet across the bottom here, reactivate that a little bit. We'll get to that. I go top and then the bottom, or background, the sky, and then foreground. And then I do the middle area, and then I do the final product, the buildings, in this case. If I'm doing a floral painting, I do the background, I do the green, all the leaves first, stems, and then I do the flower itself. Finish it up that way. That's the way I kind of find works for me. Some people like to jump right in and do the subject, jump right in, do the subject, and then paint the background in afterwards and whatnot. But I just try to work from back to front. The best way to describe that, we got some nice paper towel here that Austin provided me. Okay, here we go. Break those up a bit. I like these towels now. You can use a full sheet, or you can use a smaller by tearing along the perforation. And you don't always need a big sheet to wipe up a little bit of a spot here and there. Okay, now get that mopped up a little bit out there. If you have too many puddles, sometimes it takes a little while for that to dry, that puddle to settle in. So I just kind of go over it and get it dried out somewhat. Okay, now let's see if I can find my blue. Where is the blue? I think this one down here might be. Let's try it. Nope, not that one. These darker colors kind of throw me off a little bit. I had a blue out there somewhere. If I don't have it, we'll get one. Is that the one? Yeah. Let's see what we got there. Oh yeah, I guess that's it, yeah. Just to make sure, I'm gonna put blue out. Put it right down there, okay? The dark colors kind of throw me off a little bit. And I don't know what they look like until I spread them out on a piece of paper. And I say, oh yeah, that's blue, right, okay. So we'll try that. Just put a little touch up in here, see what happens. Oh yeah, it's gonna be all right. Yeah, put some blue up in that sky. I already have wet the paper, so the sky is gonna go in soft, no hard edges. See that how you blend that in across here? All right. That particular blue is just phthalo blue. Ooh, kind of dark. Goes on the paper dark. You just put some water into it, spread it around. You can go down into this area too. Yeah, something like that. Okay. I'm not going to use it anywhere else right at the moment. Okay, now if you want to make an area lighter while the paint's still wet, you can take a clean area or a towel and you can blot it. You can lift up some of the paint and expose the white of the paper. And you can do just the reverse if you want to go darker. You just put more paint on your brush and go across the top, see, like that. And you can make an area darker if you so desire. Yeah, I go right off onto the tape. All right, now, let's see what else. Now, while I'm waiting for the top of the sky to dry, let's drop some color across the bottom area. We'll just start off with a base color here. Maybe put some yellow in there. Put some yellow in the base color underneath. And then you can take a little bit of your raw sienna. You can mix that in there. Very pretty color. You spread it around. You can mix your paints on the surface too if you want. Now, in the picture, that's a little bit darker than what I have here. But that's all right. Let's get that out of there. There we go. Now you can get a lot of this background in somewhat in a hurry. You can be a little bit slower and more, particular about what you're doing here. You can take some of this color up here, and you can drop some of that into the where the trees are going to go. Put some yellow, give it sort of that base color. You're dealing with autumn color, so yellows and beige and all that, brown, whatever. And put some of that in. Okay. And you can be a little bit careful about it. Don't get too much water in there. If you go into the building part, don't worry about it. You can always blot it out, hide it. That's why I keep a tube of that white acrylic handy so that I can come back in there and do some touch-up. Hide even some of the marker. Sometimes I hide all the pencil marks. You can erase some of that grid, you know, that I do first with the, I divide it up into squares. That can be erased right through the paint once it dries. Okay, let's see, put a little bit more over here. Now I do have a darker color too. I have that somewhere hiding over here. I have a deeper color called sepia. I use sepia quite often. That's a darker, real dark brown. Let's hope that's it. Okay, I'm going to test what it does. Yeah, okay. We'll use some of that along the bottom here. Okay. We'll put some of that across here. That's what's in the picture. The picture's probably the colors are much darker than I am. Sometimes what I do is I put the colors on light and then keep building up, you know, or put another coat or another layer over that. That's kind of wet over there. I'm going to get that drier so it will dry faster. But yeah, I don't need a pile of tissues, just a few. Okay, here we go. And we'll drop some of this color across here. Yeah, you get a little bit more paint on the brush here. Okay. Put this out. Okay. All right. We drop a little darker. This is sort of some green. You don't need that much green in there. Usually in the fall, by the time you get to fall, a lot of the green has disappeared. You might see a little bit still up in the trees here. I'll take some of that from here and put it up there. I just put just a shade of that into here. Okay, that's a little bit dark in the corner. We can erase some of that and just push it over here in this corner. That to that. Okay. All right. I'm going to take some of this out too. We'll lighten it up a bit. There you go. That's supposed to be a little bit of a road to the doorway of the barn. Okay, take some of that. That could be, some of that can be dashed up and through here. Just a hint, you know. I see it in the picture here. There's some trees that are sort of fir trees anyways. So we'll use some of that on them. They never change. The color, they stay green year round. Okay, let's touch up across here. Go right to the edge off the tape. All right. So what I'm doing now is just laying in these softer colors and kind of letting them kind of set up a little bit, especially the sky area. Okay, now we can start thinking about maybe doing a lot more in here. I want to put in this particular painting, the artist has put quite a bit of orange in here, up in this area. Let's see, there's orange here. He's got orange over here. There's a dash of orange through here. Okay. We'll put some in there. Okay. And then we're gonna, let's see, there's some over here, a little bit in here. Try to put a point on it somewhat. Now I'm using a big brush. You can go to a smaller brush. Might make it a lot easier for you sometimes. But when I'm putting some of these background colors in, they're sort of flat color. So you can get away with using a larger brush. You don't have to be too fussy with it. These are just flat colors. Okay, there you go. Take some of that out of here. Soften it out. Reshape it a bit. Notice I'm left-handed, so I keep my paints on my left side, the water on my left side, so I don't have to be reaching across too far. It's right-handy, I can just go here and boom to the paper pretty fast. Okay, there's a little patch of yellow there. We're going to have some off here somewhere. Right out to the edge. How's that? Put that right to the edge. Okay. Now sometimes when you do the picture and you go over your lines with permanent ink, the process is almost like the same idea as filling in a coloring book. You know, you have already the lines are there. All you have to do is decide what colors you want to fill it in with. And this is pretty much the way that I've set this up. This is going to be quite dark through there. A little bit more noticeable down in here. Out to the edge. Now, a lot of times what I do too, if I'm going to draw this out, I don't do too much of the actual detail, if you will. I don't do really that much detail. I put the extra, little finishing touches in with the color. When I paint it in, I add a little bit more to it. Okay, there you go. A little bit more yellow there. Right on the edge of the building. The buildings look kind of flat. I didn't actually draw them into the proper perspective. I left everything kind of flat like you would an abstract painting type of thing. I didn't get involved with the perspective, as much. Okay. Fill this in here. It's a little bit darker up through here. This can go up a little higher, up into there. Put a little bit more in there. Now, when I was younger, I used to do a lot of coloring books, and they're very helpful if you later on, get into painting, because you know that you're mixing and blending colors like you would using crayons almost, except you're using your paint on a brush. Okay, make that a little bit more. I can try to control the drawing somewhat. sometimes I get too carried away, probably do too much, getting too fussy with it. I think the worst thing is to overwork just about anything. I don't, no matter what it is, even sometimes if you're cooking food, you can overcook it or put too much in one ingredient more so than what it called for. And I think you can have the same problem with your paint sometimes. You can overdo it. And your drawing, you can overdo it. And sometimes you're better off if you do sometimes less. Let's put something down here, across here. If you keep it less, I think you're better off. If you try to do too much, then you get too busy. Too busy. You should have one particular area that might be a focal point that you go to. In this case, I don't know. It seems to be the focal point seems to be sort of towards the center. This area through here, off center, in the middle somewhere. And it doesn't have really a real strong focal point other than the barn being quite a bit lighter in there. So, and the size of it shows, you kind of go to that a bit because of the size. Let's see if we can find, I didn't put red out, but we could put a smidgen, just a little bit of red in there. But they put it back in probably put it back in the bag here. I can see the red right here. There's something in there. It's a reddish color. So we'll take a look, see what we have. Okay, that looks like some red to me. Okay, here we go. All right. Let's find a well that doesn't have any paint in it and put it right there. Now, I can go back and use a smaller brush. If you want to stick with a flat brush, it doesn't really matter. This happens to be probably a half-inch flat. Looks about that size. And you could take a little bit of your red. You don't want to get too carried away with that. And just kind of hit some of these areas. Put a little bit of red in your painting. In places. Okay? Kind of jump around, move around a little bit with the color. You can get carried away too much. You too many little red spots. Now, what you should do is being able to look at the whole composition and see what needs this or that. All right. Okay. I don't know if there's any. You can put a little bit of color down through here if you want. Down to that bottom, along that edge there. It's soft and breaking it up a little bit on the edge. It could be some bushes and things in through here. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. Now, I could go a lot darker eventually, darker around the base of the buildings, kind of not a real hard edge, but break it up a little bit, and as we go along, that might be something that you do for the finishing touches to your picture. We need a little bit more. This here probably is too pale. I probably will have to come back in there and go quite a bit deeper along this edge and kind of push some of that color back up into the grass, the field in front here. But for now, we can go just across the bottom and just kind of push some of that color, go off to the edge, and then take some of the upper edge and just kind of soften it out. I know in the picture here, that walk there or path, it doesn't exist that much in this particular picture. I kind of put it in. See, I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to copy that one that much. Just use it for reference mostly. Okay, a little darker through here. Over here. Go right across that area. Break it up. Don't have it one solid line in there. Okay. A little bit more across in here. Something like that. That's not too bad. It's still lighter than what we have in the photograph. But I'd rather kind of come in lighter rather than too hard and then have to sort of erase it a little bit. Which you can do, just reactivate the paint and blot it out somewhat. You can go up into here, push that up into there more. Across there. And we can take some of that color that we have and push it a little bit more down into here. Make that a little bit deeper color. Sometimes you can let an area dry out quite a bit before you put another glaze of color over that. Now that brush probably is a little bit small. I've got trying to fill in with these smaller brushes. And I could use a bigger brush, so I wouldn't have to use so many brush strokes. Okay, go up to there. Now my paintings always are going to be kind of a little bit lighter than the picture I'm looking at. Okay, now I'm going to give that brush a little rest and come back in with a pointed one. A little larger brush. Now, if I want to lighten that up, I just wet it and blot it through there. Bring that out lighter. to here, erase that on either side. Okay. Now, I spend a lot, probably too much time sometimes trying to mix colors on the surface. But when it dries out, it looks better. And you have a sort of a more color into the picture. Okay. Now, I can start doing some of the buildings, and they're sort of a yellowish color. I'm going to go back here. I've used up some of that yellow. Maybe I could put some of that back in there. And if I want, I can put probably, I could put some of that color back into, you have to paint on that blue cloth. I'll take that out a little bit more later. Now, let's see if I can use some of this yellow in the barn, and I'm just going to go up and down, try to fill it in around to here. It's sort of the panel siding is sort of like that. Let's get some more color into this. You just make that color a little solid underneath the eaves there. And we're going to put some more over on the silo. Pretty much the same color as the barn. I let some white show through if you want. It looks like it's lighter in certain areas. And it has a shadow on the sides to give it the appearance of being a round shape, circular, cylinder, like a cylinder shape. Okay, what do we have out in here? Not much. Not much. We gave it a little bit more color than probably what it needed. I'll just drop some of that paint off here somewhere. Okay, now, what else? Okay. Now, in the doorway here, you can kind of make that a little bit deeper color if you want. Right inside, this can be much darker. Around the bottom, the base, it might appear to be lighter because the sunlight is coming in, reflecting into the barn. It's reflecting on the floor, and the upper corners right up in here can be much darker when you fill it in. So we'll go up around here and bring that down. Okay, so you can, if you want, you can take your brush before you finish up here, and you can just pull some of that color and put it up in the corners. Get it straight if you can. Sometimes if some area might be fussy to do, I just put some masking tape down on your paper and just paint it and then take the masking tape off. Now you got some color on this shadow on this side of the silo. Okay, you got some shadow up there. I'm just going to pull this down on the side edge like that. Yeah, give it that roundness. And you get some more shadow. We'll finish that off. And you see a little bit on this side. It does give it that illusion of not being flat. shadow up there. Now you're going to have some shadow up here under the eave of now the other building here, that's kind of a darker color, the whole thing. It's kind of all, it's really in the background, so it doesn't have much light. Let's finish the door off here. Give it a little bit lighter on one side. Creates the illusion of, showing the inside of the barn. A little bit across there. Fill that in. Something like that. Now, let's do this shed. The shed, we said, could be a lot darker in here. This is the shape of the siding. A little bit like that. And we'll go up in the point of the barn like that. And just pull that back down. Yeah. Let me take some of that, pull that across here. If it looks too much, I just blot it and soften that side off over there. Okay, now I think we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to get some shadow up in here too, across here. Of course, we're going to do something with the window. Let's get a shadow going across here. You can see that in the picture a little bit. Like I said, the artist has helped out a little bit because they've already shown you where the shadows could fall, under the eave. This is always darker up in here. Something like that. Take some of the edge off of that on the inside. So yeah, you're working around here, and I want to repeat that color. Maybe on this side of the that building in the background. Maybe make that show up a little bit darker there. Yeah. The way I'm painting the picture, my picture's going to look quite a bit different. Yeah, I suppose you could do this dome shape here, just fill that in. You could keep it a little bit lighter, like it could be like a tin roof there, And up under the eave here, that can be a little bit darker too. You can use some of that darker color you have in here. Go right down through here. Do the other side a little bit. Something like that. Okay. So, you keep working at it. Now, the picture does have some green in it. In the background, so what I do sometimes, I let that go a little bit, but you can, if you want, I can find some of my green. I think that's sort of a greenish color, hopefully. Put a little bit of that in there. We're running out of wells here. Okay, now, if this is drier, you can kind of add a little bit of texture out in here, some of that green, show a little bit more of the shape of the fir tree. You don't have to get too fussy with it, but just give it a little bit of texture in there. And there's something else coming up in here, another fir tree in there. Something like that. Something, a little bit of green in through here. Okay. I'll get to finish that off in there. Okay, let's see what else. Maybe just a color distribution here. Let's put some green out in here. Whoops. Give it a little point. A little tree back there. Another smaller tree in here. Probably could have used a smaller brush, probably. I can still do that. After this dries, sometimes what I'll do is I'll go into with the picture and add a little bit more darker texture with a marker, so to define things a little bit more. Now, while we're thinking about it, let's get some darker color down through here. We see it in the picture there. Darker in here. Okay, need some more water on the brush here. Alright, fill that in. Get a green area down through here. And that just go out to the edge here. And while we're at it, let's put a little bit more green into this area, in through here, whatever it might be in there. And I think we can dash a little bit of green here. Kind of distribution of that same color. Pulls everything together, you know. Let's add a little bit more out into here, hide some of that. Some of my drawing part of it. Okay. All right, get that filled in. Now, what else do we need? Now, a lot of times when I do these paintings, they're really not totally 100% finished yet. But with watercolor, you know, sometimes you have to let some of this kind of dry out a bit before you come back in. Let's rough this up a little bit across here. Yeah, it's a little bit. And like I was saying, sometimes you have to put the finishing touches on it after the thing dries. And you can't use a marker, a permanent marker, it won't work when it's wet. You can't make a permanent marker work when the paper's wet. Let's kind of break this up with a little bit more color down through here. Take a little bit more of that green in here. Spread it, blend it in a little bit more. Take some of the edge off of it. So what it is, it's just looking at what needs to be kind of pulled out in through here. This particular bond, you want it to show up more. What you do is make it darker on either side. Once you fill it in, it pops it out. If there's something, but you got to fill it in here, you got to fill it in over here, and it brings the building out. Now, if the building doesn't show up enough across here, maybe it isn't that you have to put something in back. Maybe you have to just make that a little darker. Maybe you could do it with a marker. Now, it's up to you. If you want to put some hills and mountains in the background, You can put some of those in if you want. They may still have some color on the hills. If they're below the tree line, a lot of the mountains in this area aren't too tall, so there's not much of a, there's not much of a open area towards the summit. Usually they're not that high elevation, because some mountains are so high they'll have snow on them all year, all summer practically, because it's pretty cool up there. Now that might be a little bit too much green. So you can add some different shades into that, because that the hills may have some color. You can make a little, not so much of that, but a little bit of that warm color in there. Just kind of spread that around a little bit. That's the idea of it. Now, this is going to be cleaned up a little bit through here. We're going to make the barn jump out a little bit. The silo has to be kind of pulled out. It isn't so much that you paint the silo, it's just the background. I got to kind of fill that in a little darker. See how I left that too light through here? Well, we'll fill that in, quiet that down in here. You got to quiet this down over here. This has got to be quieted, just to pull things out. Now, as far as the ground goes, I'll spend a little bit more time on that. I may have to come back in if I want just to show up more here. I may have to put some white, very light color back into that. Use some of the white acrylic maybe. Okay, so make sure you go to the edges here and around through here. Now, normally I pull the tape off. You can see what it looks like. I'll probably finish this a little bit later. I'm kind of running out of time here. But I'll finish this and show it to you next week, and I'll have the tape off and so forth. But you get the idea of color distribution. You can add extra little shades in here, darker shades of green across here. Shows a little bit more of the terrain. It's not absolutely just flat. Okay, go across in here. Add some green on this edge. We'll pull it back over here, pull it back from here. Okay. So you kind of get the idea how that works. And of course, the whole thing with watercolor, you let it set overnight, everything gets lighter. It's going to be much lighter. So you'll know what needs to be darker. You can refer to the picture itself, squint, look at it, and see where it needs to be darker in certain areas. If you want to make the mountains more noticeable, you can make the contours and decide which side the light's going to be coming in from when you do it. Okay, so this just gives you an idea how to go about painting and build up your colors when you're working from it. So this is what we were working from, and that's what I was working from. So you can see I've got to do a little bit more fussy work in here, and a lot of more emphasis on bringing some of those light areas, pop them up a bit. And under the eave here, that's got to be a little darker here. a little bit. This is really a kind of a deeper area right through here. Maybe clean up that contour of the barn, the shape of a building back there. Sometimes you can just lighten it up too. Take some of that out. Maybe blot it. And so it needs a little bit of work, but I'm running out of time, folks, so brush this up and we'll see you again next week. Okay? Thank you.